All right. Hello, everyone. We are so glad that you are here and that you'll be coming and joining us for a conversation that we're going to have today. So, I'm really excited to be here with my dear friend and now colleague and partner, not only in this, but there are some really good things to come that we're anticipating. So, we look forward to really sharing in this space, but also in other spaces as well. I want to welcome you all to the show. My name is Rhonda Y. Williams, and I am the CEO and founder of Above the Grind Leadership, as well as the founder of LEADJITSU. And I'm excited to be here with my co host, and I will allow Dr. Juma to introduce himself.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, my good friend, Rhonda. It's a pleasure once again to come live on this very platform. It's been my desire that a day will come when we have this kind of conversation. So excited. I am Juma Nashon. I am the lead pastor of Glorious Life International Center and the CEO of GPP Live Solutions. It's a consultancy firm, and we are so much excited to be part of this very podcast that is beginning today, courtesy of my good friend Rhonda.
I am excited, we'll talk a little bit about this later, but we met and had an instant connection around the topic of leadership. And that's where I want us to begin today. I want to start by talking a little bit about leadership because as I look around in the world, I see leadership everywhere. They say that you can use rose colored glasses. I use leadership colored glasses. Okay. That's how I view the world now. Good, bad, it is what it is. Dr. Juma, I want to start by asking you to share your perspective on what is leadership? What is leadership to you?
Well, that's $1 million question because let me just begin by saying, even before I talk about what leadership means to me, who is a leader, I would want just to make this observation in this particular world that we are living in today's dynamic world, if I may be allowed to say so. The pace at which life is moving and things are evolving. Sometimes it becomes so hard to define a leader because of the dynamic changes that are even causing leaders to doubt themselves whether they are leaders. And this podcast is going to help us articulate a few things so that we may regain our confidence as leaders and we may do what leaders really do, because every leader sooner or later will realize that leading is not something that is easy. It is a hard business, and it is getting harder each day in our today's generation. But we are going to try our level best, speaking not from a heroic point of view, but speaking from a point where we have learned on job training, on this very, very practical aspect. We want to share our wisdom, and that's what is going to inform possibly my perspective, my definition of who a leader is. Because as I look at the traditional leadership structures, literally here in Africa, I don't know about the West, but here in Africa, the structures that really defined leadership are almost demolished at this moment to nothing. And so the kind of environment that we have today, it may be very difficult to really say that this is leadership, but we have people in position. But we all know that leadership is not position, leadership is not rank, leadership is not title. But these structures, as good as they are, most of them, the traditional structures, are right now demolished. And the few that we have are actually in difficult operation. Now, this makes me now to really look at leadership from today's perspective and define leadership from the worldview I personally find myself in. And that is from the Christian perspective. I will have to define leadership in the sense that as a Christian, I acknowledge the supremacy of God. And I do believe that God has called men to be leaders in different aspects. And so to me, a leader is a person with God-given capacity. I'm saying God-given capacity because I'm recognizing that as a creator, he has endowed people with certain given abilities. So to me, a leader is a man, a woman with God-given capacities that enable them to influence a particular group of people. There are some who actually influence women, and others influence nations in that category. Others are in the church. Others are in the corporate world, in the business world. So to me, a God-given capacity to influence a particular group of people to fulfill a particular God-given purpose. To me, that is a leader. When you have the capacity to influence a particular group of people to fulfill a particular purpose that is meant to be fulfilled by that existing group of people. To me, you are a leader. If you can determine their behavior, you can determine their action, you are a leader. That's my perspective, Rhonda.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think you're speaking to something that is really important. And before I say that, I want to acknowledge just a few people that we have in our audience watching. Maggie's out there watching from Uganda. Hey, Maggie, thanks so much for joining us. And then we also have, let's see, there she is. Maggie's out watching. And we also have Joshua watching here. He says, I'm watching from Kiberislam. Hey, Joshua, thanks so much for joining us. We have Achiever Wisdom watching as well from Kenya. And Joshua said leadership is not a title. And this is what I want to touch on in just a second. Regina's watching, and Regina's in Texas. Hey, Regina, thanks for watching. Pastor Grace is watching. Thanks a lot. Thank you all so much for being here. We absolutely appreciate you joining us for this conversation. And we intend to set some seeds, to plant some roots today that from which we can continue to build and grow. I want to build on what you said because leadership, oftentimes we associate it with a position or a particular title, right? I am either, even in the church, there are certain positions where we think these are the leaders. In the corporate space where I practice leadership a lot, we think of the senior executives or somebody with a manager or director title. They are the leaders. In reality, we are all the leaders. And this is important. Should we choose to be, right? Should we choose to be? So the way that I think about leadership, and John Maxwell had the quote that leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. The way that I think about leadership, I think of leadership as today, leadership is inspired influence. Leadership is the ability to move a community, a group, whether that is in the church, in your home, in your family, in your community, at the office, wherever you are. Inspired leadership is the ability to move a group to a pre-desired, predetermined set of goals or outcomes. So if you want to consider yourself a leader, where are you taking people, right? That's always my first question. If I am following you, where are we going? And not only where are we going, how are we going, right? That's the inspired part. So leadership is the ability to inspire people to move in the direction that you want them to head, whether that is, making sure that we are anchored in our religion, in our roots, in our love of God, if we are anchored in our belief that every person deserves our respect, our belief that we need to be humble. That is how I view leadership. So I want to just see, there are a couple other folks out there. Fred joined us as well, watching from Kenya. Frederick, thank you so much for joining. Princess is out there as well. Hey, Princess, thank you so much for watching from Kenya. I hope to return real soon. Maybe we can meet when I do. All of our friends. And then we also have Joshua, who says, I define leadership as the ability to uplift and inspire others to realize their potential, work towards that shared vision of positive change. For me, it means stepping up to serve. Absolutely love that. So we've defined leadership from our perspectives. We've got some audience participation on what leadership is. So let's talk a little bit about who we are. And specifically, Dr. Juma, I love to learn sort of who are you and why in the world is leadership a thing for you? Why is it so important to you?
Well, who am I? I'm a leader. Now that we are talking leadership, matters leadership, who am I? I'm a leader. And looking at even the definition that our audience also has, I just like what has just been, posted there. It's very powerful that, everything has to do, when it comes to leader, everything has to do with moving or rather achieving a particular agenda. At the end of the day, a leader is changing a particular situation or a particular individual. So when it comes to me, I have my rootage in the aspect of faith. And I look at my life and the definition that I do have when it comes to leadership is that I am actually inspired to reconcile men to the intent and purpose that God created them to be. So I inspire them by reconciling their lives into the perfect plan of God, by showing them this plan of God. And therefore, when I see a life changing from this particular position and coming to pattern God, then to me, it's already an achieved God. But I want to also say my great interest as we are in this particular podcast, is informed by, the crying families. Families are crying for leadership. I tell you the truth. In the homes, there is a cry. When it comes to the business world, with all that is happening, there is also a screaming, that is coming from the business world and corporate world. You look at it and it's like, hey, the corporate are looking for solution, and therefore a leader is needed, or rather leadership is required. When you look at the national level, nations in Africa, I thought that the nations there in the Western world are already there. But I also realized during the coronavirus, I discovered a lot of things, the inadequacies of the nations that we could proudly refer and even learn from. We realized that every nation was crippling with inadequacies. The capacity to handle the situation was wanting. And that's why I'm recognizing the magnitude of leadership. And I'm saying, how can I be part of the conversation that could bring solution? Now, there are three things I would also want to really mention when it comes to why leadership to me is very important. One of it is that there has been a lack of preparedness. Allow me to say this. In my observation, and why I am in this particular space of leadership, I look at the lack of preparedness on those who are now in leadership. Some of them came into leadership ill-prepared, ill-powered, ill-capacitated. And you see, whether it is in the family, whether it is in the church, whether it is in the government, you can imagine an ill-equipped leader leading an organization. What will be the outcome? Definitely, there is a transmission of inadequacy in as far as family area is concerned, church area is concerned, government is concerned, business and corporation. So this inadequacy being transmitted to the next generation, there has to be a stop over it. And this cannot happen without us having this conversation, of course. So I am very passionate about the need to stop this inadequacy that are related to leadership. Another thing I would also say is that many of us who are in leadership positions, are not just lacking the ability in executing some of these particular mandates we have. We also have inability to mentor, or rather to, to prepare those who will come after us. This, I don't know in the West, but I'm talking from the East aspect. You realize that many of us may be in the leadership position, but we do not have ability to prepare those who are going to come after us. I have observed this with keen interest, and that's why I'm in this particular space. And just to conclude my third observation, and which makes me very passionate, and why leadership to me is important, is that those who already are in leadership right now, when you observe very keenly the struggle they have, whether it is in government, the struggle they have to get direction towards where they have to send their people or the organization, where they have to move this organization, the struggle they have is screaming for capacity. And so for me, I'm here not just to learn and be capacitated, but also to capacitate my other brothers and sisters who happen to be in the leadership position. That is my passionate concern, my dear Rhonda.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Regina says so awesome. And Sam, hey Sam, thanks so much for joining us, watching live from Kibera. It is so important what you just said, and it's almost one of the reasons why I focus on this so intently as well, because there is this need. So in our lives, we see people who are good people, and we see those people and we see potential. We see what they had, that they have the ability to rise and really have powerful impact and influence in the world. But what happens is we then say, okay, I'm going to give you the keys to the castle. So I'm going to promote you because I see all of this goodness in you. But we promote them. We give them the keys to the new car. We give them the keys to the castle, and we walk away.
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate. And that speaks to that lack of preparedness. Well, they're not prepared because we have not helped them be prepared. And I think for all of us out here as leaders, that is our responsibility. Another thing that John Maxwell says all the time is a leader's job is to create other leaders. That is not a passive role. That is an active role. If we are creating leaders, we're not just identifying leaders. We're giving them the tools, the resources, the support, the feedback that they need, helping them understand when they are going off track and when their people are not responding or they're not headed in the direction that they want to go. This is really what leadership is about. So I'll tell you just a little bit about my journey. My background is a registered nurse, and I worked in healthcare organizations and sort of came up through the ranks until I got to the place of being a chief nursing officer and a hospital CEO. So in those roles, I experienced it firsthand. I was a good nurse. I was a smart person. I was positive and open, and I got the keys to the castle, right? Those characteristics got me the keys to the castle. They said, okay, there's a chief nursing officer position open. I thought to myself, well, I've never held a role like this before. I'm not sure, but I'm confident, right? I was confident in my abilities. I thought I can do this. Dr. Juma, I got this position. And before I got it, a mentor said to me, you are taking on one of the hardest jobs. And then she said, no, let me stop. She said, you are taking on the hardest job in the hospital. So initially, I got a little bit of ego in there. And I thought to myself, are you saying you don't think I can do it? Or I wasn't quite sure what her message to me was. She said, no, I'm just telling you that this is the hardest job in the hospital. Well, I went for the position. I thought I can do it, and I got the position. 4 months in the position, I was in my office when my door closed and my head in my hands, and I said, "Oh my gosh, this is the hardest job in the hospital." Right? Because what happened is I just took the keys to the castle, but I had no formal leadership training. Right? No formal leadership training. Everything was just in my head about what I thought was right, and I had to learn on the job. Did I do it? Yes, absolutely, I did. But it was not without these growing pains, right? And I look back on that situation now, and I think this could have been smoother, right? I could have elevated faster, but that's what's happening in our world today. We see good people, and so my own experience transforming organizations around the globe, working with another company that I used to work to, going into those spaces and hearing the same stories from leaders. Didn't matter if it was in Texas, in Alabama, in Michigan, or in Saudi Arabia, or wherever we were, in Colombia, it didn't matter. People stepped into these leadership roles without leadership training, and they paid the cost for that. And so my mission, my vision, my passion is to elevate the practice of humanized leadership by giving people the tools and resources and training and the feedback that they need to really lead people. So that's how I got here to this journey.
I love that. I love that. Very articulated. And you remind me, you say, you've just reminded me about my background, towards as a teacher in high school, and students. I was always looking at my teachers as my main models.
Yes.
Now, little did I know that life is just also another school. Now, it has taken me time in fact, it has taken me quite years to come to a point whereby now I feel I'm in my purpose. And this has to do with human capital development, building the human capital so that they are released. And I'm passionate about the marketplace because for me, the marketplace is almost a place of everybody. And therefore, in the marketplace, we have all people trying to do all kinds of things. But then how are they going to really deliver what they desire to deliver, or get what they desire to get, that product, that service? So I'm as well very passionate to see that the potential of all these people in the marketplace, do they understand the service they are bringing? And how are they really capacitated to deliver that particular service? Is the service inferior, or is it superior? Now, it can never be superior if at all they are not going to be capacitated. You see that? So I am passionate. And, I think it's John Maxwell who has said that powerful people ask powerful questions.
Yes.
And it's the high time that powerful leaders should ask powerful question. And one of the questions that I was actually meditating upon, because every leader must be actually having a follower. So the first question that we need to be asking, even as we are beginning this podcast, we are going to really explore a lot. But the first question that I was just thinking, if powerful people must ask powerful question and powerful leaders must ask powerful question, then one of the questions I was just asking myself, which can also help our audience, is, well, do you have somebody following you for you to regard yourself as a leader? That's a powerful question. For any leader, are people following you? And what is the object of their following? This is very powerful. I just want to interact with the audience. What is the object of your following? Because these things are going to inform the tools that are going to enable you and me to lead and to empower leadership. So those are just the powerful questions I was just meditating.
Well, let's do that, Dr. Juma. Let's pose that to the question. So,
yes.
So there was another quote to that end that speaks to that. It says, "You might think you are a leader, but if you find yourself moving forward and you turn around and there's no one there, you're not leading, you're just taking a walk." right?
So
So someone has to be following if you're leading. But I want to take us down a little bit of a rabbit hole because Nima is out there and she's talking about leadership from the perspective of parenthood. So let's go down the rabbit hole for just a little bit. I love when the audience takes us down rabbit holes because it introduces something different for us to talk about. And she's really talking about parents and what
yeah.
if parents view themselves as real leaders and not just, preparing their children to go off at the age of 18, and I know that as a person of faith, that's really important to you, how parents are leading themselves and their children. So I'm going to just let you respond to that. We'll do a short response from you. I'll add to that, and then we'll move back into our segment.
Honestly, I think Nima is raising a very powerful point here. And because uh, we are losing a generation if we do not come to this particular point she's raising. Because a family is a unit, and it is the mystery behind the nation's business, because that's where the wisdom of God is, that everything and all nations have been built by families, whichever, even the corporations we are leading, somebody has come from a family. And I think she's bringing a very powerful point. And I want to make this observation. Many parents have abdicated their duty. Many, and it begins there. And I think the call of parents beginning to be leader. But anyway, how can they lead if they have never even known they are leaders? Right. And how can they lead if they do not even have the tools even to lead their children? And this brings us to this aspect. What tools of transformation are you going to use to grow your children? What tools of transformation are you going to use to change the lives of these particular kids? Because the kids of today are not the kids of 20, 30 years back. And therefore, I think from my perspective, parents relinquished their responsibility. Not because they are not parents. They are parents who are incapacitated in the sense of lack of tools to use to train their children and even make their children leaders. So if our children are not seeing leadership in us, they are going to inherit a mindset which can never be of a leader, but of a follower. Whom are they going to follow if they are not seeing the leader in us? And that's why I submit to us. I do believe the time has come for us to recapture the responsibility as parents of leading. I think that's my emphasis. Let's recapture. Let's come to this consciousness. We have left our children to do what they feel. And you can imagine if they are subjected to a vacuum where there are no values, no virtue, no parent has stood to show them what virtue looks like, value looks like, they will do crazy things. We will not have a next generation. So for me, I want to submit. I do believe what has been posted there is key. Let us negotiate the future of our children by recapturing our leadership role as parents. That is my observation.
Really, really powerful discussion. So Nima, thank you so much for raising that question. You saw that you took us down the rabbit hole and we went with you because we love rabbit holes here. But I love what you shared because it goes back to what we just talked about in terms of other leaders, whether they're community leaders, corporate leaders. They have not received any training. They have no idea what it is to be a leader, how to be a leader. And so parents find themselves in the same place. Most people that I know, oftentimes you either go to high school, you get out of high school, or you get out of college and you think, oh, I can't wait to be done. That's it. No more school. I'm done. I'm done with all of that. But you know what? We're not done because it is our responsibility to continue learning so that we can role model, so that we can instill. The first tool, because you mentioned tools of transformation, the first tool is leading by example, right?
True.
It's leading by example. And so children do not do what we say, they do what we do, right? So we have to be in that space of operating from our highest integrity, from our values that are so important to us. But even that, Dr. Juma, you can't operate from values that you're not aware of. So, what are your values? Have you ever sat down to write out what your values are? Have you shared those with your children and your grandchildren? Because if not, then how do they know what your values are and what you're aspiring to? Right. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of our parents. You know, we send people books on first time motherhood, but I think every parental book should include what it means to be a leader. And I think Nima just really hit on something powerful there. Sam said, I love this, brother, Dr. Juma and Sister Rhonda. Thank you so much, Sam. We are having a good time. So we're going to head into our final segment. Just so that you all know, we intend for this to be around 45 minutes or so. And we do want you to come back and join us. But our final segment is really talking about what our hope is for these discussions. We're here starting Lead Voice Podcast. And our goal is that we have people like you all out there watching who are sending us questions, who are active, who are engaged. And so make sure that I'll respond to all the comments and make sure that you have the page where you can go. If you have a topic that you would like to see us cover here on Lead Voice, make sure that you go to the website and let us know. There's a form there where we want to collect your information and your thoughts around this. But we want to talk about why Lead Voice? Why did we start this? So, Dr. Juma, we met when I visited Africa and Kenya for the first time. It was always on my list. And so I was so jazzed and inspired to have the opportunity to go there with Dr. Ruben West and the Live Your Best Life tour. We did the safari, we did all these amazing things, but something else beautiful and amazing came out of it. And that is, I found people like yourself who are passionate about leadership, who care about leadership. And so now I'm super excited to continue to see how we bring our work forward. But you and I talked, we got online, we got on WhatsApp afterwards, and we talked more, and we said, okay, how can we take our passion for leadership and move it forward, bring it to the people, give people what they need, touch on topics that sometimes might be a little bit sensitive, might be people might not want to talk about those things out loud, but we need to have the conversations because after all, we are leaders, right? And that's what leaders do. So we had this vision and now we're here at Lead Voice. Please share with us from your perspective, what is it that you hope that Lead Voice does for our communities?
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. And just before I just put some 2 or 3 points as far as Lead Voice or why Lead Voice is coming up, you mentioned something that I would want to reiterate.
Yes.
And it begins with example. You mentioned that's self-leadership. I want to emphasize this to all parents, to all leaders. Nothing defeats example. Nothing defeats example. And I am very keen on this in the sense that any leader, as we are going to be conversing a lot on leadership, I want to say, out of the experiences I have seen, any leader that doesn't accept the discipline of learning, of training, is a potential criminal. Whichever area of life he may be, whether in family, whether in government, whether in business, when you don't learn, unlearn, and keep learning, you will become a potential criminal. You can imagine a surgeon. What would happen? And this comes very practical, and I want to be very practical to all of us. If you have a problem with your lungs, whom are you going to entrust those lungs to be operated? If you have a problem with an ear, I doubt whether you are just going to go to any doctor. You would want to establish that the person that is going to attend to that particular ear or organ is well trained. And that's why I want to say we cannot be in leadership, whether in church, whether in family, whether in government, and we are allergic to the training or allergic to the knowledge we need to. It will be a disaster to hold any position. It will be a disaster to lead without understanding. And that's why Lead Voice comes here as a platform to me that you are going to enjoy getting truth that perhaps you were never privileged to go to any university, any college. But here is a platform that allows you to discover and empowers you and opens up your mind and your heart to certain given truths that will enable you navigate through the times we are in. Whether you are a businessman, whether you are a leader of any organization, whichever place you may be, a frontliner, you are going to really be enriched with this Lead Voice platform. I also want to say that not only are we going to enjoy the capacity issue as far as this podcast is concerned, but we are going also to have a time to review what has been working and what has not worked and what really needs to work when it comes to leadership, because there are things that have been working and we can borrow from so many great men who have gone ahead of us. We can quote them, but remember, the problems they were addressing may not be the problems you are addressing today because of the dynamic and evolving changes that we are all experiencing in all aspects of life. It's important. So Lead Voice to me is coming as the very one-stop shop that you can extract some wisdom, extract some mind, extract some solution, and then you will find your business running in the right way. And of course, finally and not least, as far as I'm concerned, Lead Voice is going to help you gain the right and healthy perspective about your organization and how you can move it to the next level. And also, of course, your life as a leader. So to me, Rhonda, those are my strong point when I look at Lead Voice. As we are launching from today, as we begin this conversation, even before you tell them when are we going again to come and have this podcast, I do believe those are key points our audience can appreciate as at now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here and to be partnering with you because so I want you all to imagine Dr. Juma and I sitting down at this little cafe over lunch and this kind of energy going between us. That was the moment that we really knew, like, oh, okay, we really have to do something here, because there was this instant bond and connection to, yes, there are things that need to happen in leadership and we can help, right?
Yes.
We can help. It's a part of our mission, and that's why we're here. One of the things that I definitely want to address is you touched on the leadership training. You can't be a leader and be allergic to training and education, because leaders are learners, right? Leaders are learners. They are constantly seeking to learn. And in my way of thinking, you can't really take in the information without applying it. So hearing is not the same as learning, right? Learning is information that is actually consumable and practical, and you can do something with it. So if you choose to just sit here and hear every Lead Voice conversation, but you choose to do nothing with it, are you really learning, or are you listening, right? Because those can be two completely different things. So we want to bring a master class to you. Each time we're here, every time we're on air, it's basically a mini master class. People pay a lot of money to work with me, Dr. Juma, around the world. And we're here, we're coming because this is where our hearts are, because we want to serve and we want to help support people who are empowering their communities and their people around them. For the leaders that I work with, I often invite them to step into the dojo, right? Step into the dojo with us. But when you step into the dojo, know everything that you hear, you're not going to like, because there are things that you're going to hear that are meant to stretch you and to push you out of your comfort zone, right? That's a part of what we're going to do here at Lead Voice. So I invite you to come and be with us. If you're still out there listening and you have an idea for a leadership topic, drop it in the chat. Let us know. What do you want to talk about with leadership? Nima has already given us, I mean, the one on parents could be a whole conversation, right? We could do a whole show on that. But are there other areas out there that you as a leader find yourself wanting to talk about, to discuss, and to dive deeper in? So if so, feel free to drop it in the chat. I'll also get an opportunity, as I mentioned before, to go find each of you and sort of follow up with the website so you can visit us there. We will be here with you. We will be here the last Friday of the month, every month, and that'll be at the same time. So it is 8:30 p.m. EAT, and it is 12:30 p.m. Central and 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're looking forward to bringing the conversation, turning up the heat a little bit, but also turning up our ability to empower each and every one of you to really step in and own the leadership in your own life. So excited to be here, excited to continue this conversation. Joshua is out there. Joshua says, I appreciate and am learning. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Juma, I'll turn to you and ask if there are any final words that you want to share with the audience, both watching live and those who might be watching on the replay.
Thank you, Rhonda, for your kindness. Thank you so much for, it's one thing to think about an idea. There's so many people with ideas, but they have done nothing with the idea. When this idea dropped in your heart and it dropped in my heart, and we realized that everything is resonating well, and it is also upon us to serve our generation, regardless of which, background we are coming from. You coming from the west part, I'm coming from the east, at the heart of Africa here, and I'm excited to have, we are going to have different perspective. I just love what one of the audience here, I think it is Nima, she must be having the shining star L, Nima. I feel that this thought and idea can be used in parenting as well. We appreciate such kind of remarks. And Nima, you can be sure that we are well equipped to handle, and we are well equipped to flow through that particular direction. And we welcome you on board. Feel free to share with us all that you feel. We may also come one of these fine days, we will be looking at the family as far as it's concerned, or parenting as far as it's concerned. And we have quite a lot. If you have a topic that you feel is a topic that always puts you into some chill, I just want you to drop it, suggest it there. And here we are to serve, to converse with you, and ensure that we stretch you, as my colleague has said, my co-host, and you become a better you. So for me, I see a better you as our audience, and I want you to actually share this first podcast. Let them know that we are coming once every month. Is it once every month?
Once every month, the last Friday of the month.
Last Friday every month. Yes. So now you can note it down. Last Friday every month. So this month, is this the last Friday?
This is the last Friday. It's the last Friday of every month.
Great. So now you can be very ready for the last Friday next month. You will be getting me here, my host, and I will be the co-host, and we will be glad to converse with you in this great conversation of the Lead Voice. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Juma. You said it right. This is a conversation. Our podcast is a conversation, and I'm really excited about that. So excited for everyone that joined. Ruth, thank you for that last comment. We'll leave you with that, and we will look forward to seeing you all back here October 25th. I was just looking at the calendar. October 25th is the next time we will join you, and mark it on your calendars now so that you have that space blocked and protected so that you can be fully present and join in the conversation with us. So until next time, I wish you all a pleasant weekend ahead. God bless, and we will see you the next time on the next episode of Lead Voice.
Bye bye.